Another area that I'd like to go over is the informative annexes that can be found at the end of the NEC right before the index. As we discussed in an earlier lecture, these are for reference only and don't contain any actual rules or requirements of the NEC. However, they are nice for information's sake, specifically informative Annex C that we'll be going over very briefly. We'll be going back to it in a later lecture. Can be extremely helpful when you're trying to do conduit field calculations. Now, as you can see here to the side, the annexes go from an informative Annex A down to K, and they have a wide range of topics that they cover. For instance, Annex A, the very first annex, provides UL listing numbers and standard numbers for essentially every type of piece of equipment that you could imagine that the NEC covers. Although the NEC doesn't require that UL listing is specifically stated, the NEC does tend to, in the way it's written, sway a little bit towards UL, since several members of the UL board were some of the founding members that helped to establish the NEC. That's neither a good or a bad thing, just a statement of why it is the case that it is that way. And of course, for the fact that in North America, UL is the largest NERDL in the country, or nationally recognized testing laboratory. Aside from Annex A, though, Annex B includes a few ampacity tables that can help with doing some or avoiding having to do some calculations and whatnot. I find that for both the calculations and a few other things covered in the annexes, though, once you learn how to do them, it's often quicker to do them yourselves than to dig through the annexes to try to find them. Annex C, as I had mentioned, has several tables that show how many of a given type of conductor you can fit in a given type of raceway. Again, we won't be going into detail on that at the moment. We'll be covering it again in a later lecture when we go into calculating conduit field. Annex E provides the different types of constructions that you can have for different types of structures, such as a type 1, type 2, so on and so forth. Again, for the most part, not directly related to per se NEC requirements, but helpful nonetheless. Annex D provides examples of a variety of different types of calculations. For instance, you can see here, if we move on down, industrial feeders in a common raceway, how to do that type of calculation, examples of multifamily dwelling calculations. Again, the majority of the types of calculations you would do in the NEC are covered here in the informative Annex D examples. However, it can be a little bit hard to follow along with some of them if you don't have precursor information of what it is that they're talking about. F has some information relating to some specialty type systems. Both Annexes F and G, as well as K, all have specialty information regarding these specialty systems. K is a little bit more simple and direct in that it's referring to the use of medical equipment in the home, such as respiratory aid systems and things of that nature. But again, they are geared towards specialty systems, SCADA systems being covered in G. Annex H includes verbiage and recommendations and other topics that a jurisdiction or municipality may wish to include in their legal language when adopting the NEC. If you scroll through here and read some of these items, it will give definitions of different positions, ways in which to appoint or nominate members of those different organizations, how to perform inspections, how to handle permitting, and other things. Annex I provides tightening torques for different types of screws, set sockets, things of that nature. And the last annex to discuss would be Annex J, which provides some ADA compliance standards for other types of constructions. Again, although the NEC itself does not require electrical installations to be installed to ADA standards, other codes, such as ADA itself and the building code, will require that the construction be done to those. So it is important for people working in the electrical industry to understand the better part of them. The last note to make about the annexes is a simple statement regarding the length of them. If you notice, we're on page 737 of roughly 900 pages. And again, from informative annexes all the way through the index and developmental process, that is non-regulatory items, meaning they're not enforceable items. So around 170 pages of material that, although it's nice to know it's there and be able to use it as a reference, isn't per se items that we would need to reference in our day-to-day or know for an exam. If you combine that with the statement we made earlier regarding all of the information prior to Article 110 for definitions, the contents, etc., that being nearly 60 or 70 pages, you have almost 250 pages of the 900 pages in the NEC that aren't direct code requirements or regulations. Again, a very large percentage, almost a third of the entire book, that is not those regulatory guidelines or requirements that we have to follow. Again, just one of those peace of mind type items that can possibly help a little bit with approaching the NEC.